It's time for a duel. Event number 6 here at the 2022 Rogue Invitational coming up next. And for the second straight year, it's an elimination-style event where we will pare the field down gradually until we have a head-to-head matchup for the event win. Thanks for being with us here, everybody, at the Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas. I'm Sean Woodland with three-time Affiliate Cup champ Adrian Conway. Laura Horvath has a ton of momentum right now. She has won the last 3 events, but she has yet to get rid of Gabby Magawa. Magawa just 5 points back of first.
These ladies are going head-to-head, but Laura has the advantage. Going into a test that is going to really highlight the athlete's ability to get up that rope and do it quickly. Laura has a climbing background. And now that we've been into such grip-intensive work throughout the course of this weekend, I really like how this could play out for her.
Here are your overall standings coming into event number 6 of 10. Horvath with that 5-point lead over Gabby Magawa. Laura Horvath, the first woman to win 3 straight events at the Rogue Invitational. Annie Thorstadter has moved into the top 3. Emma Lawson sits in 4th, and it's Amanda Barnhart, who is 5 points clear of Danielle Brandon for 5th. Event number 6 is presented by Beyond the Whiteboard. It is the Duel II, and we saw this format last year at the Rogue Invitational.
We did. The Duel II is just a bit of a different spin, different flavor, if you will. It's 1 legless rope climb into 10 overhead squats. The load isn't tremendously heavy for these athletes at 135 for the men and 95 for the ladies. And then we've got a cyclone bag carry to the finish at 200 pounds for the fellas and 150 for the ladies.
And in an event this fast, you just can't make mistakes. What are the keys to success?
You know, accuracy is the first thing, Sean, that comes to my mind, but not just with these rope climbs. Of course, the hand-over-hand method's going to need to be quick and your descent needs to be accurate, but the depth with the squats as well. You can't afford a no rep, and it's important to stand and show the judge what they want to see in that hip extension at the top of every rep. Then lastly, transition speed. I know we've got 3 elements in this test, but there's a 4th, and it's hidden, and it is the transition time from movement to movement.
We will start with 3 heats of 5 athletes. The top 5 women in the overall standings, Horvath, Magawa, Thorstadter, Lawson, and Barnhart, all get a bye into the second round. The top 10 times from these first 3 heats will advance into round 2. There's Danny Spiegel, who will be in lane number 3.
She had a great
Spiegel
start
coming
to
in
the day.
16th place overall.
Yeah, had a great start to the day, and you'd like to think that some of that momentum from her heat win is going to help carry into this test here.
We start with the 1 legless rope climb. Annika Greer closest to the screen.
And speed matters, Sean. How quick can they tab the top and then get down quickly is tremendously important. It's not just can they do a legless rope climb, it's how fast.
Menon Enganez in the long gray pants is the first woman to the barbell. Danny Spiegel is next to her in the green pants, and she has a really good pace going here. Annika Greer is the first woman through. She will pick up the 150-pound cyclo bag, and she has to take it 75 feet across the finish line. It's going to be Annika Greer who takes the heat. Spiegel is second. Menon Enganez will be third. Here comes Olivia Kerstetter. She and Andrea Solberg, the last 2 women to finish. So 41.57 seconds for Greer, the top time.
That's a little fast. Just a little fast. And I think what we can notice here right out of the gate is that legless rope climb played a significant role. But Annika Greer's ability to cycle her overhead squats with clean reps, showing the judge what they needed to see in regards to depth and hip extension at the top, is what resulted in her getting a lead to that bag.
41.57 seconds unofficially for Annika Greer. And heat 1 is done as Annika looks to advance into round number 2, and that mark will certainly help her achieve that. One more look at Annika Greer's run in heat number 1.
Right out of the gate. Notice even the jump from the pad. It's important to create momentum up. Annika has a great leg swing that allows her to feel as though she's almost kipping up that rope. And then it was a race to the barbell. Execution here matters. It's going to be easy for athletes to start wobbly. If you can get a great rep with that first squat snatch, it's going to pay off. and it put Annika in a great situation as she is pounding through those overhead squats. And the first to drop. You've got to be willing to get a bit reckless with the cyclone bag. Now, the audience will notice that this can be a tad easier to pick up and hold on to because it's actually thicker at the top and more narrow at the bottom, so it kind of fits the parameters of us wrapping our arms around it and holding it against our body.
One heat down, 2 to go in this opening round, and remember the top 5 women in the overall standings receive a bye into round number 2, and they are out there right now just getting in some reps. They're on the right side of your screen. They just passed out of view, but they've been working on some overhead squats and just trying to stay loose as they wait for round 2.
There's a lot to be learned as they get to watch these other heats take the floor, but there's something to be said in being able to grease the groove and feel the heat of competition there on the floor. But we know the advantage is it pays to be a winner. You're getting to rest. You're getting less reps under tension here because of your placing already in your hard work.
There's Alexis Raptis, who has back-to-back finishes inside the top 6. She finished second in DT with a spin to close out Friday night, and then a 6th place finish earlier in the Turtle. Bailey Rogers, Emma McQuaid, Alexis Raptis, Carolyn Prevost, and Jacqueline Dahlstrom in this second of 3 opening heats in round number 1. 41.57 seconds was the top time from heat number 1 from Annika Greer. Top 10 times from these first 3 heats moving into round number 2 to join the top 5 women in the overall standings.
Yeah, we're taking 10 out of these 15, and this one is all about execution. You think they're feeling the pressure a little bit?
Just about ready to start heat number 2. 1 legless rope climb, 10 overhead squats, and then the 150-pound cyclone bag carry across the finish line. Here we go.
Good jump. Pretty even race right out of the gate. Hand over hand for all these ladies. No kipping needed.
Bailey Rogers first to make the touch. She'll get to the barbell just ahead of Alexis Raptis and Carolyn Prevost. Emma McQuaid in the white shirt on the left side. She's right there as well.
Here we go. Athletes focused on driving right through the middle of their foot. You can't get too far back in the heels. You certainly can't travel forward on the toes and let the weight pull you forward.
Seen a couple no reps handed out. Emma McQuaid got hit with one, as did Jacqueline Dahlstrom, and now Alexis Raptis is in the lead alongside Carolyn Prevost. Here comes Bailey Rogers.
Oh, Prevost got that bag up quick.
Raptis and Prevost in a foot race to the finish. They are dead even. Raptis falls. Prevost makes it across cleanly. Now Raptis has got to get across because here comes Jacqueline Dahlstrom. And I think Raptis was able to hang on as Bailey Rogers and Emma McQuaid are across. But Carolyn Prevost will get the heat win. Waiting for her official time. But Alexis Raptis with the trip. We will see if that will cost her. 1 heat remains here. But a great race between those two, and now they're able to share a laugh about it. But
yeah, you love to see it, right? And they're gonna, quote unquote, risk it for the biscuit here. Alexis put it all on the line because she knew that it was down to hundredths of a second that was gonna separate her from Prevost, and that is really what we've got to see. Now, you hate to see an athlete fall or falter, but it's a part of competition. What you love most is that they're able to laugh it off, get back to the athlete area, reset and get their minds right, because they know there's likely a chance for them both to have an opportunity to take the field again.
So one more look at heat number 2 that came down to the cyclone bag, and we saw a couple no reps on the overhead squats.
This seemed to be a pretty clean run for several of the athletes out of the gate until, like you mentioned, Sean, we saw some no reps in the overhead squat, which are costly.
Alexis Raptis and Bailey Rogers got to the barbell at about the same time. And there was the first no rep for Jacqueline Dahlstrom at the bottom of your screen, and then Emma McQuaid got hit with one as well, and another, as did Dahlstrom.
And what I'll say most about Prevost, she probably has one of the slower cycle rates of these overhead squats, but you know what? Every rep counted, and she knew it, and it allowed her to get off that barbell quick and onto the bag. The security and position that she grabbed it with and how quickly is what separated her from the rest of the field here. And of course the slip up there by Raptis.
And then Alexis Raptis was able to gather herself and get across the finish line just ahead of Jacqueline Dahlstrom as the top 10 times from these first 3 heats move on to round number 2. Third and final heat here in the opening round. The athletes making their way to the starting positions.
And I'll say Raptis, her ability to rebound quickly and respond to that adversity, get up and finish. Wow, that's a lot of in-the-moment focus and not letting that particular time become bigger than you as a competitive athlete there on the field.
There is Ellie Turner, 7th place overall. Slow start to the competition with a 12th and a 17th, but since then, everything 8th or better, a 2nd, a 3rd, and then an 8th place in the Turtle as she has been climbing up the standings, now 315 points. And Danielle Brandon has been moving the right way after a 19th place in back attack. And there is Cara Saunders, who currently sits in 10th place overall, coming off an 11th place finish in the Turtle.
And I like what Danielle Brandon's going to have an opportunity to do here, opening with a legless rope climb. And then the question mark really is going to remain, what's she going to do with the bag? Can she get it in a secure position and move that external load? Because it's not light, but it's something that she can handle. And we know those heavier loads can be something of a limiter for her.
Matilda Garns, Ellie Turner, Danielle Brandon, Ariel Lowen, and Cara Saunders. There's Matilda Garns, 9th place overall. Best finish of the competition was a 4th in the opening event on Thursday, Texas Trail. Third and final heat of the opening round has begun. It's Matilda Garns and Danielle Brandon. Brandon makes the touch first just ahead of Garns. Here goes Danielle to the barbell for her 10 overhead squats. And Cara Saunders is behind her, as is Matilda Garns, but Brandon wasting no time.
She dusted that first squat snatch, hit the proper depth, has her judge in a rhythm of just counting reps instead of judging like a hawk watching her all so closely, and that got off the barbell quick.
Brandon now to the cyclone bag along with Cara Saunders. Brandon has that thing hoisted up, and she is heading towards the finish line. Here comes Cara Saunders right behind her. Brandon's going to take the heat. Saunders is across. Ellie Turner will take 3rd, followed by Garns and Ariel Lowen. And now we have to figure out who had the top 10 times and who will join the top 5 athletes in the overall standings in round 2. And pretty much a done deal that Danielle Brandon's going to be one of them.
Yeah, and you even see it. Her demeanor immediately is like, okay, I finished. Get me off this. I need to get myself ready for the next round. I'm hungry for more. She had a bad taste in what went down yesterday in regards to some of the events and their outcome, and she's out for business.
Yeah, Brandon won the opening event of the competition, then took a 9th, and then it was the back attack event, the back squats and the box jump overs that really derailed her. She missed a rep. The barbell hit the ground. It's 275 pounds, and the athletes are responsible all by themselves to re-rack that. So she had to strip weight, move it back up, and at that point, she was out of contention for any sort of solid finish there. But since that 19th place finish, she has bounced back, a 7th and then a 3rd earlier today. Let's take a look back at this 3rd and final heat as Danielle Brandon goes wire to wire.
Smoked that initial rep right there. Executing a clean squat snatch sets athletes up for success for the rest of the 9 reps, and she did fantastic with this bag, which I questioned earlier. How would she respond to that load and carrying it the distance? She showed us. She smoked it.
They will tabulate the scores and figure out who the top 10 athletes are out of that opening round, and then we will be back for round number 2 of the Duel II here at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. We are waiting to find out the 10 athletes who will join the top 5 in the overall standings here in round number 2 of event 6, presented by Beyond the Whiteboard, the Duel number 2. We've had a scoring appeal from round 1. The scoring team is making sure they need to get that right because in a bracket style event, that might mean that someone who is in ends up being removed, and they want to make sure that that process is correct. And now you can see the names going up on the board to round out round 2. The top 5 women in the overall standings, top of your screen: Jacqueline Dahlstrom, Ariel Owen, Manon Anganese, Matilda Garns, Ellie Turner, Annika Greer, Danny Spiegel, Carolyn Prevost, Cara Saunders, and now one more name needs to be put up.
The suspense.
Danielle Brandon. No surprise there, as she was the winner of her heat. There are the 15 women who move to round 2 here. You may have been watching as we were away and saw Barnhart, Lawson, Thorisdottir, McGowan, and Horvath take the field, but because of that scoring appeal, they had to bring them off while they figured that out. They will be first out to kick off round number 2. The top 10 women will move on.
Yeah, and allowing these athletes time to get back, move their body, stay warm, and also stay precise with these movements that they're about to get tested was extremely important and an integral part about keeping the field of play as even as possible.
And as we saw in round number 1, mistakes can be costly here.
Yeah, you've got to roll through this thing clean. It's one legless rope climb, 10 overhead squats at 95 pounds for these ladies, and then a cyclone bag carry of 150 pounds for 75 feet. This event starts and stops in the blink of an eye.
There is Amanda Barnhart, 5th place overall. And overall leader, Laura Horvath, who has won 3 straight events. Keys to the Duel II.
Yeah, and like many would assume, accuracy is extremely important. Hand over hand on the rope climbs, and then also a quick descend can make or break athletes. They've got to squat to depth, show the judges what they want to see, and also extend those hips all the way at the top. And then transition speed is a 4th element of the 3 listed that can often be hidden in this test.
So Gabriella McGowan currently sitting in 2nd place overall, just one finish outside the top 5. That was event number 2, where she took 11th. Now the judges will take their positions, and we are set to kick off round number 2. Top 10 times from this round move on to round 3. And then it will be the top 5 times, and then the top 2 going head-to-head for the event win. Emma Lawson currently in 4th place overall. She does have an event win in this competition. She took ski bar to open up Friday. Lawson, McGowan, Horvath, Thorisdottir, and Barnhart. Opening heat of round 2.
We tested rope climbs in semifinals this year. Laura Horvath is the lady out on the field that finished with the best time in those 10 legless rope climbs for time. And she's going to be first to the barbell.
Horvath and Lawson get to the barbell together. Horvath right in the middle of the field. Here comes Thorisdottir and Amanda Barnhart. Now McGowan, the last woman to start her overhead squats, and Laura Horvath with a good pace here.
Accuracy is key. Now we got to see, how does she respond to the bag?
Horvath has the bag up. Barnhart is second to the bag. She has that lifted. Laura Horvath is going to win the heat. Amanda Barnhart looking to take 2nd place. Annie Thorisdottir and Emma Lawson battling for 3rd. And Gabby McGowan will come in last. We'll have to wait and see for the official scores here. So it does look like Emma Lawson may have tied with Thorisdottir. That's unofficial right now. But Laura Horvath looking like she has a very good chance of moving into round 3. Scores still adjusting, but it was very clear that Laura Horvath is your heat winner.
Yeah, and here's what's interesting, Sean. She executed clean and flawlessly from what we saw, but now the remaining 10 athletes have a time to beat, and they are the ones that get to play, can we match her time? And these top 5 now just get to sit and wonder, was that enough to advance us into the next round?
A lot of waiting and nervous moments for the athletes during this event, just like we saw last year with the Duel, which was the final event of the 2021 Rogue Invitational. We will get set for the next 5 athletes to make their ways out onto the field.
You know, there's probably people watching this wondering, like, is this really a test of fitness for these elite athletes? And the answer to me is obviously yes. And when we think about the 10 general physical skills that encompass what CrossFit is, we've got strength, power, accuracy, agility, speed, balance, and coordination all at the forefront of this test. Now, it's fast, but it is a strong measure of their fitness.
Jacqueline Dahlstrom and Matilda Garnes, along with Ellie Turner. They will be out in heat number 2 with Menon Anganese and Ariel Lowen. Athletes taking their positions on the starting mats. Judges are in position. Matilda Garnes is taking a second to just take a look at her barbell, maybe put a little chalk on it. There is Menon Anganese.
Again, you think about that hand placement. Garnes just making sure that she knows exactly how to attack the bar in that split moment to make sure she gets it overhead exactly where she wants. Some of these ladies may have to take a moment to glance at their hand position, and now she's minimized that for herself to optimize the result.
Matilda Garnes continuing to warm up, using every moment she has before they start this event. She came in 9th place overall, coming off a 7th place finish in the Turtle. And there is Ellie Turner, who currently sits in 7th overall with 315 points. Best finish of the competition was event number 3, took 2nd in back attack. Ariel Lowen also in this heat. Laura Horvath, the fastest time that we have seen so far in round number 2. She won the opening heat, unofficially a time of 37.78 seconds. Heat 2, round 2. Starts with that one legless rope climb. Matilda Garnes is through, and she will be the first woman to the barbell. She's on the right side of your screen, and she is 1 rep in. Second platform from the right is Matilda Garnes. Ellie Turner, though, in the middle, has a great pace going on her overhead squats, and she has remained clean so far.
Yeah, just a shorter cycle rate allows her to take the lead there on those overheads.
Ellie Turner first to the bag. Menon Anganese right behind her. Matilda Garnes is in 3rd, followed by Dahlstrom. So Turner's going to take the heat. Garnes trips and falls short of the finish line, allows Anganese and Dahlstrom to come across ahead of her. And now Ariel Lowen is in.
And Ariel had a drop as well. She had to pick it up and finish with a few feet left. You got to wonder when we watch things like that, Sean, is the overall fatigue from the first 5 events now starting to catch up with these ladies throughout the course of these couple days? They've done a lot of work already.
Ellie Turner with a great run there. Was not the first woman off the rope, but her pace on the overhead squats is what allowed her to take the lead. And then had little trouble with that 150-pound bag as she lugged that across the finish line. And looking like she will be moving on to round number 3.
One thing that I love most as we get to watch short, fast events like this is the psychological test that is often at the forefront of all these events, especially those that come under a minute. It's how can you handle the pressure? I mean, I'm up here watching these athletes take place, and when the judge says 10 seconds, my hands get sweaty.
It's hard to take the competitor out of the competition for sure. Let's go back and look at that second heat and watch Ellie Turner in the middle of your screen and the pace that she has when she gets to the barbell.
Everyone was pretty much neck and neck here through the legless rope climb. hand over hand, not a lot of kipping from this heat, using their hips to get up there, just arms. But look at that cycle rate. She even got a no rep and was able to rebound from that, come back, and make a sprawling finish over the finish line and make it count for the heat win.
Doing a good job of letting the weight on that bag pull her forward, and I think that's why some of these athletes are tripping short of the finish line, is that they're just trying to get that momentum to carry it over. And we saw a costly fall from Matilda Garns as she was in line to finish second in that heat and winds up taking fourth, as both Anganese and Dahlstrom were able to pass her at the finish line. Third and final heat is set. And Annika Greer, who's on the far right side of your screen, had a really great run to open up the competition.
She did, and what stands out to me about that clean run that we saw from her is that she didn't necessarily win coming off the rope, but her cycle speed of her overhead squats, if she can get to that bar, stick that first squat snatch, and then show the judge what they need to see, it's going to put her in a very good situation to get to that bag with a slight lead over the field.
Greer just 5'2", so not a lot of ROM there.
Exactly. Not a lot of range of motion there from the hips to the knees when we're working in that frontal plane up and down.
Danny Spiegel comes into the event in 16th place overall. Her best finish was a 6th in event number 3 back attack, that heavy back squat and box jump over event. Danielle Brandon in lane 3 in 6th place overall. Spiegel, Saunders, Brandon, Prevost, and Greer. Third and final heat of round 2 has begun. Danielle Brandon in the middle in the green top. Looks to be first done with her rope climb. Prevost was second, followed by Saunders and Spiegel, and Annika Greer is the last woman to the barbell, bottom of your screen. But as Adrian mentioned, that cycle time on the overhead squats really paid off for her in round 1.
Danielle got there, though, with about a 2-rep lead on the rest of the ladies.
Brandon is through, so is Saunders. Here comes Carolyn Prevost, but Annika Greer, as you mentioned, Adrian, closed that gap. It's not going to matter, though, as Danielle Brandon is going to win the heat. Saunders is in. Prevost dropped the bag. Spiegel, Greer, and then Prevost. 38.22 seconds for Danielle Brandon. Not the fastest time that we have seen, but definitely good enough to get her into round 3. Top 10 times moving on.
Yeah, she's out. She's, again, you know, I mentioned she came out this afternoon and she means business. She's focused. She gets off the field. Now, she literally timed that just perfect, Sean. Like you said, it looks like they're using the bag to pull them forward. She nailed it. Now, I think one of the things that separated Brandon from the field is look at the slight pump that she uses through her knees on her legless rope climb. It shortens the time from hand to hand, and I think it just created enough of an advantage for her to hold on. Those quality overhead squats that she's executing there, hung onto the bag just long enough to get across that finish line.
Carolyn Prevost was looking for a top 3 finish, but she had a drop late. And we'll see if that costs her, as now we will figure out the top 10 times and see who is moving on to round 3 of the Duel II. We started with 20 women. We are waiting to find out the 10 who will advance to the next round here in event number 2, the Duel II. We have another scoring appeal that we're working through, and the judging and scoring teams are working to make sure that they get that 100% right. So while we await those results, let's send it down to the field. Kiki Dixon is with the 2 men who programmed this event, Chris Spieler and Josh Bridges.
Josh, Chris, it's great to have you guys here with us. You guys are responsible for the trials and the pain that these athletes are going through this weekend. Big picture, what were you looking to achieve and get out of the programming, or give to the athletes, I should say?
You know, we wanted to put on a great show for all these fans, and we wanted to display these freaks, monster athletes, talents, really. So every time we try to come up with a workout, they just go out and crush it.
And for you, what are your favorite events out here?
I mean, who doesn't love the duel, right? This is awesome. So inspiring to watch them back squat 405. And then we've got some really exciting stuff planned for the end.
Have you guys gone through all of these events yourself?
Oh yeah, easy, all in a weekend. It was easy.
Easy day, easy day. You guys are also competing on the legend side of things. How much fun are you having with that?
It's just awesome to be with friends. You know, fitness is so different in what it serves me for. Mountain biking, dirt biking, skiing, POW. But what a pleasure to be with friends.
Yeah.
And has everything played out the way that you expected with the events?
Every time you have an expectation, these athletes blow it out of the water. Every time.
Well, thanks for joining us, you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Chris Spieler and Josh Bridges, the evil geniuses behind the programming here at the 2022 Rogue Invitational, and they mentioned something that I think we see a lot, is that you have an expectation of what the tip of the spear can achieve, and every time that gets proven to be, I don't want to say incorrect, but you're not expecting enough.
100%. And these guys have been around the space for a long time. They understand physiology, exercise science, right? They've done some coaching, they do some programming. So it's not that they don't have plenty of exposure and plenty of experience in this style of testing. It's that these athletes year after year just continue to advance, and it's almost as if the tester is the one that limits the pool of talent that continues to rise through our sport. So it's up to us to continue to explore when we program, when we test, because that's where these athletes get to shine.
And think about the back attack event. The weight for the women on that back squat was 275 pounds. It wasn't that long ago where that would have been a great test for the male athletes at the games.
You're completely right. 275 pounds, I would have been excited about a few years ago if they put it in a front or a back squat for the males, let alone the women. And what we saw blew my mind yesterday, because for half the field, we don't even have a listed 1-rep max back squat, Sean, above 275 pounds from a resource standpoint. So it was like, how are they going to respond to this? And countless times we watched ladies execute not just one, not just two, but up to 5 reps unbroken at that load. And they literally were setting PRs on the field while we watched them compete.
We are continuing to await the final results here as we are through the first 2 rounds. We had 3 heats of 15 athletes. We're awaiting the final 10 who will move on. After that, we'll have 1 heat of 5 as the top 5 athletes move on, and then the final head-to-head matchup for the event win.
Which I absolutely cannot wait to see. This test here, even as we consider it being elimination style, it is all out with whatever ounce of energy and focus that you have every time you take the field, knowing that the risk is really high for you to not have another opportunity to step out there. Again, when we think about fitness, it's broad, and we're testing a really narrow scope because it's a short time domain. But again, when I think about those 10 general physical skills that we have as a measure, we're testing 8 out of them. Strength, power, accuracy, agility, speed, balance, and coordination out there.
Alexis Raptis is the athlete who has appealed, and she was correct. She had a successful appeal. What is going to happen is that Raptis is going to be brought back out onto the field. She will run the course by herself, and that will be her new time for round 2. Then that time will be factored in with the rest of the times, and then we will figure out the top 10 athletes. So a successful appeal for Alexis Raptis. She is in the gray top and green pants. She gets to log a new time now for round 2.
Wow. I love the adaptability of the staff here, right? To understand that there was a wrong made and to give an athlete an opportunity to show their true prowess. Now, she's going to have to seize the moment. There might be just a touch more pressure out there on Alexis taking the field by herself, but what a great opportunity.
Well, now she has no one to pace off of, too. It's
correct.
Just full go. But like you said, good to get this right and allow Alexis Raptis to get the most accurate representation of her ability on the board here.
Yeah, and we'd love to see this type of thing be avoided, but this is literally the best outcome in a situation like this. It's give her a chance, show her what she's got, give her the opportunity to continue to compete.
And during the break, we saw her down there talking with one of the members of the scoring team, and we thought maybe she was the athlete with the appeal. That proves to be correct. She'll move over to lane 3.
Now what's cool here is if we can get a shot of these athletes. The ones that have been eliminated literally have taken the field alongside her to watch her and to cheer her on. It is amazing.
Here goes Raptis to log her new time for round 2.
Okay, now here's where you got to push. Get that urgency. Good first couple reps. She does a great job emphasizing lockout at the top of all those, which ensures she had a clean 10 reps.
Now to the Cyclone bag, 150 pounds, and here comes Alexis Raptis to find out if her time is going to be good enough to get her into the top 10, and she is across in about 43 seconds unofficially.
Clean run for Alexis. Now we get to find out, was it fast enough?
The fastest times that we saw in that round from the heat winners were high 30s. Laura Horvath had right around 37 seconds, 37.78 seconds. Danielle Brandon was a couple seconds off of that. So in an event this fast, we'll have to see if Raptis did enough.
Yeah, and it really comes down to the cycle speed of the squats. A lot of these rounds is dictated by showing the full range of motion that, of course, is the standard for this test, but also towing the line of how fast can you return to the bottom of that squat and get back to the top. And there's a bit of risk that's inherent there when you're trying to maximize the speed, but that's really the separator.
Good look at Zeus in the middle of Dell Diamond Stadium here in Round Rock, Texas. Home to the Texas Rangers minor league affiliate, the Round Rock Express. And it's really neat to see how this facility gets transformed from a minor league baseball field to, I said it earlier, like a carnival of fitness. I mean, yesterday you had the Tower of Power out there in left field. That's not there anymore. You still have the Rogue coaster. That was the opening event for the strongmen. We still have 2 events for the strongmen coming up. We will crown a strongman champion at the end of tonight. And we still have another event for the individuals after this. And the men still have to go through the Duel II. As you can see, Annie Thorsdottir cross honors and Danielle Brandon talking things through.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the unique thing about our sport is that the athletes are going head-to-head. They all have killer mentalities. They want to win. They're here to win. But they spend a lot of time together, and they become great friends.
And that's just good old-fashioned fun right there. Kids rolling down a hill. Good to see that.
The fitness that matters, man. Setting a great example. Hey, adults, go play.
Go get out there. Get itchy.
That's right.
Roll around. The Legends are also taking part in the 2022 Rogue Invitational, and Kiki Dixon is with 2 of my favorite people on the planet, Tanya Wagner and Annie Sakamura.
Yes. Ladies, you 2 competed as a team earlier on. You're friends both on and off the competition floor. How much fun is that to do together?
Super fun. It's so great to just catch up and laugh the entire time, and then get to be on the floor together and push for each other is really cool.
And now oftentimes both of you guys can be found in the broadcast booth as well. Which do you prefer, Annie? Are you liking being on the field, or would you rather be back up at the desk?
Well, it's funny, like right before we go out, I'm always thinking, why am I doing this? I hate this, I don't want to do this, I want to throw up. And then in the middle of it, I'm having so much fun. Afterwards, it's so much fun. So they each make me nervous in their own way. It's just so much fun to be on the floor, especially with all these other legends.
Now you know that you're going to get invited each year because obviously the legend status never stops. Does that keep the pressure on you to keep your fitness where you want it?
Well, the cool thing is I don't always know. With all the people retiring, you're like, ooh, hope I make the cut still. But no, it's super fun. Like it does. I think, but just like anything else, like it's so much fun that there isn't a ton of pressure. We put the pressure on ourselves. So definitely everything ramps up when it gets closer to time for competition.
And does being called a legend get you any street cred with your kids?
No.
Absolutely not. Yeah, no.
Not even.
Quite the opposite, at least in my household. Legend to them is just like, you old. Like, you old and you got gray hair. Like, you're a has-been.
You fabulous. Thanks for joining us, you guys.
Thanks.
2009 CrossFit Games champion Tanya Wagner and Annie Sakamoto, who was the 45 to 49-year-old Masters champion last year. Always fun to hang out with those two. You will not stop smiling in their presence.
Absolutely not. Fireballs. And always bringing a good time.
That is standard behavior right there for the two of them. And great ambassadors for the sport. They both own affiliates, CrossFit Apex. And for Tanya Wagner, she and her husband Josh have been the longtime owners of that affiliate. And the Legends it's a fun for them to get out here because I know a lot of those athletes that sometimes they only get to see each other once a year at this event, but it's also cool for the community. And we have new fans coming in the sport every year, and some of them never got a chance to see Rich Froning compete as an individual, Dan Bailey or Matt Chan or Sam Briggs. And to see the level of fitness that they are still able to exhibit out here has got to be inspiring for a lot of people.
I completely agree, and I forget that because I'm such a nerd about our sport. I've been in it long enough myself when someone's like, wait, who is that again? I'm like, excuse me, what? You don't know who that is? So I really love that Rogue continues to include the Legends because it's such an educational process to people becoming a true fan of CrossFit and what we bring to the table as a sport. I think it's a beautiful thing. And of course, you know, hey, it's fun. These guys and ladies never disappoint when it comes to putting on a show. You know, like they get out there and it's all fun and games until that beep goes down, and then they're still a great example of what raw capacity looks like.
Scoring team still working on getting those top 10 times correct, so while we wait on those results, let's go back down to Kiki Dixon, who is with Carrie Pierce.
Carrie Pierce, it's been so fun to watch you compete on the legend side of things. However, is it hard for you to switch gears when that buzzer goes off and not want to win, or what is it like for you out there?
You definitely just want to go and give your best. You're like, this is about fun, but I think we're all athletes out there, so we're competing and just want to give our best and put on a show for the crowd.
Now, you were paired with Rich for the first event. Did you feel any extra pressure as a result?
A little bit, yes. But I think once 3, 2, 1, then the buzzer goes and you're like, I'm fit. I know what I'm doing. He's super fit too. So it was just a lot of fun, and being able to go back and forth on basically everything and do the front squats together was a great time.
And now that you're not competing necessarily as an individual side of things, has the cadence of your training changed?
Yeah, I've definitely slowed down a lot. I work out basically 4 days a week. And like I said, just a lot lower volume, still decent intensity. I'm still very fit, but it's been nice slowing down, and joints and my body and everything feels great. And I'm just really having a lot of fun.
It shows. It's been a blast to watch you this weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Carrie.
Carrie Pierce competing as a legend here, the 2022 Rogue Invitational. We are in the middle of event number 6 of the CrossFit competition. It is the Duel II presented by Beyond the Whiteboard. Begins with that one legless rope climb. We go into the overhead squats and then finish up with the 150-pound cyclone bag carry to the finish line.
And it is a fast event, 90-second cap, and none of these athletes have needed anything close to that in order to finish it. And we mentioned it's fast, but it's a great test of so many of the things that we measure and aim to improve in a sport of fitness. Strength, power, accuracy, agility, speed, balance, and coordination are all things that these athletes have to exhibit in order to have success in this event.
Still waiting on the top 10 times from round 2. And then we will have 2 heats of 5, but let's take another look at the keys to success for the Duel II.
Yeah, we mentioned accuracy, and it is really highlighted here in 2 of the movements specifically. We've got hand over hand for the rope climbs. So your speed matters up and down. We noticed Danielle Brandon have success from pumping the legs in short spurts and acting as a kip. We've seen ladies use the cycle rate or the windmill almost look like a scissor type kick with their legs on the way up. And then of course, transition speed is a hidden fourth element of these three movements that are listed, because the speed from the rope to the bar and the bar to the bag is extremely important in the outcome.
Well, and so far it's been those last two movements that have tripped some athletes up, whether it's a no rep on the overhead squat or dumping the bag before you are across the finish line.
Yeah, and this is, you know, you hit the nail on the head, Sean, when you talk about the last two movements. There has to be an urgency throughout all three of these, but there also has to be a relaxation so that it allows you to have accuracy as you finish.
Now they are filling in the 10 names who will be moving on. Barnhart, Turner, Saunders, Horvath, and Brandon are the first five. Now, Danny Spiegel makes it through along with Annika Greer, Manon Anganese, Annie Thorisdottir as well. And then the final name will be maybe Alexis Raptis. So the appeal pays off for Alexis Raptis as she gets another run to put up a time, and it's good enough to get her inside the top 10. So 10 athletes remain, 2 heats of 5 before we take the fastest 5 times here. They will face off before that head-to-head matchup for the event win. Raptis, Thorisdottir, Anganese, Greer, and Spiegel in the first heat. Barnhart, Turner, Saunders, Horvath, and Brandon.
The table set. Here we go.
We are waiting the first 5 athletes to make their way out to the field. It looks like they're going to give some of the athletes in round 2 some time to warm up. So Brandon, Turner, Saunders, and Barnhart are all in the warm-up area right now, just getting in some reps to try and stay loose, as they are wrangling up the 5 athletes who will be in heat number 1.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, this is a challenging portion of this for these athletes. It's one thing to be in the safety of your own affiliate, where you train day to day, to be able to warm up and then just go attack a workout full speed. Hey, no big deal. But to be staged after a thorough warm up and have to stand still for 5 to 10 to sometimes longer than that, because of course we have unexpected things happen, and then have to step onto the field and go full speed and do it accurately with urgency, can be a challenge in itself. So much of this competition is how athletes can respond to adversity in the moment. And of course, unpredictability is a part of that.
Cara Saunders getting some reps in on the Cyclone bag. Ellie Turner was out there messing with that thing a little bit as well. They're still waiting on the first 5 athletes to make their way out, and there they are. Alexis Raptis, Manon Anganese, Danny Spiegel, Annika Greer, and Annie Thorisdottir. Two minutes away from starting the first of 2 heats in round 3. Top 5 scores moving on. We saw Annika Greer talking with Annie Thorisdottir. Annie Thorisdottir debuted at the CrossFit Games in 2009. Annika Greer was 6.
Wow. Dates us a little bit. But I will also say Annie was extremely young when she came onto the scene too. So,
and you just listen to some of the records and achievements that Annie Thorisdottir has in her career. As you look at Alexis Raptis, who had that successful appeal. Annie is second all-time in event wins at the CrossFit Games with 14. She's one of 9 individuals who has competed in 9 regionals as an individual. Annie Thorisdottir has won 5 regionals She's tied with Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet in that category, and Annie was also a member of Team Europe's invitational team 3 times. Annie Thorsdottir, Annika Greer, Danny Spiegel, Manon Anganese, and Alexis Raptis on the field here. And we are set for the opening heat of round 3.
Who can be first up the rope?
Annie Thorsdottir looking good, like she has a slight lead on Alexis Raptis at the other end of the field. The two of them make the touch at the same time, followed closely by Manon Anganese.
And Annie needed that time.
Raptis is first.
Her squat rate's a little slower than some of these other girls.
Keep an eye on Annika Greer.
She opened with a no rep, but still cruising.
Greer, the second woman in from Thorsdottir. Barbell is down along with Alexis Raptis. Here come Thorsdottir and Anganese. Danny Spiegel in 5th. Alexis Raptis is just ahead of Annika Greer. Here comes Manon Anganese. Raptis is in 1st, and it's going to be close for 2nd.
Photo finish.
We will have to wait for the official results, but Alexis Raptis takes the heat, and there were a handful of women right behind her vying for 2nd place. Top 5 times will move on to round 4.
Ways to seize the opportunity there from Alexis.
Raptis and Thorsdottir, the first 2 women done with the rope climb. Annika Greer put some pressure on Alexis Raptis in the overhead squats, but a clean run on the cyclone bag for Alexis Raptis. You mentioned transitions in your keys. She certainly made fast time between the barbell and the cyclone bag, and it pays off for Alexis Raptis, looking to move into the 4th round.
Yeah, you wonder, did that extra run prime her and get her a little bit ready for her opportunity there in that particular heat?
One heat remains here in round 3. Those athletes are ready to take the field. Barnhart, Saunders, and Brandon right there at the top of the steps, followed by Laura Horvath and Ellie Turner. Horvath, your overall leader coming into this event. She's won the last 3 events, the first time that has happened at the Rogue Invitational.
And we can't not mention who we don't see. Gabby Magala out there climbing this rope and having an opportunity. And we know it seems that historically, rope climbs aren't a strong suit of hers. So you wonder, was that something looming on her mind leading into this event? Was there urgency? Was there even more self-created pressure? Like, oh, I've got to get up this rope quickly.
It's important for Laura Horvath to amass some points here at this juncture of the competition, because there are deficit parallel handstand push-ups that are looming, and that has been a notable weakness of hers in the past. And the good news for her right now is that the only woman who is within striking distance of her right now is Annie Thorsdottir. And Thorsdottir was 30 points back to start this event. So if Laura Horvath can get herself at least into the final round here, she'll have a really good chance to widen that lead.
Yeah, and she's got a lot of self-awareness. I believe that she understands throughout these 10 events where she's going to be able to make points, create opportunities for herself, and she knows that event is looming. So I think that even puts more of an emphasis on this run that we see her on, this hot streak of victories, and potentially us even watching her 4th in a row here.
Horvath had one of the best times in the last round, 37.78 seconds and winning her heat. Danielle Brandon was close to that.
Both of these ladies, Danielle and Laura, both get up that rope extremely quickly, and I can't wait to see whose style shows to be more fruitful here. As we know, Danielle Brandon tends to have the short kips with bent knees on the way up, and Laura Horvath tends to keep her legs a little longer and move them from side to side almost like scissors.
You've been out there on the competition floor when you have to sit and wait and the anticipation builds. What's going through your mind when all you have to do is just stare down the competition floor?
A lot of things, right? First and foremost, I'm really trying to keep myself as calm as possible. We already get so excited. The adrenaline is pumping through your veins, and what you can't do is get too emotionally involved too soon because you're just building fatigue. So you have those moments where it's, deep breath, woosah, calm down, here we go. It's not time yet. And then once they start to count down within a minute, it's time for you to get focused and get serious.
We are set for the second and final heat of round 3. Danielle Brandon is in the lead, makes the touch first. Laura Horvath right behind her along with Cara Saunders. Brandon to the barbell first, gets a rep in ahead of Laura Horvath.
Yeah, Danielle did a great job even adjusting her feet in the middle of a rep without costing herself time there.
Cara Saunders is in third place right now, and barbell down at exactly the same time for Horvath and Brandon. It's going to come down to the bag. Horvath gets it up first. She has about a step lead on Brandon. Brandon trying to make up that distance, but it's going to be Laura Horvath, Danielle Brandon, and then Cara Saunders. Here comes Ellie Turner, and then Amanda Barnhart is through.
What a race. These ladies, step for step, the whole entire way, almost dropped that barbell and sink.
Laura Horvath shaves more than a second off her time from the last round. It's likely the top 3 here in this heat will all be moving on, but we have to, again, see what happened with heat number 1 and those official scores. But Laura Horvath going to move on. It's Brandon who was able to win the race on the rope, but Laura Horvath makes up the ground on the overhead squats.
Yeah, she made up the ground. She got to the barbell, executed very cleanly. They dropped the bar at the same time, and then all of a sudden, Laura's ability to get that bag to her lap and to her belly quicker gave her a 2-step advantage on Danielle, and it paid off.
If Laura Horvath advances into the final round and Annie Thorsdottir does not, Laura Horvath is going to have a really big cushion on top of the overall standings heading into event number 7 later on this evening. But we have to wait and see who the top 5 athletes are as we have 2 heats remaining.
This is where the athletes have to hurry up and wait.
Annie Thorsdottir's already up in the stands with her daughter Freya and Frederica Gideus.
She's not upset about that quality time, Sean.
Not at all. Annie Thorsdottir back in individual competition for the first time since last year when she finished 2nd here at the Rogue Invitational. Competing with that team she put together for CrossFit Reykjavik. Finished 4th at the CrossFit Games last August. Take a quick break. We'll be back with round 4 of the Duel II. Event 6, the Duel II, continues here at the 2022 Rogue Invitational, and we are awaiting the reveal of the 5 athletes who will be heading into round 4. Thanks for staying with us today, everybody. Sean Woodland with three-time Affiliate Cup champion Adrian Conway, and we have Kiki Dixon down on the field. Laura Horvath, Danielle Brandon, Cara Saunders, the first three athletes in that final heat, joined by Alexis Raptis. And the final athlete in will be Ellie Turner.
Wow.
And this is big for Laura Horvath.
Yes, it is. Danielle Brandon, the only one left, closest points to her.
Danielle Brandon came in 6th place overall, 65 points back of Laura Horvath. Alexis Raptis with a smart appeal in round 2 to get herself into round 3. Now here she is in round 4. Top 2 will face off for the win out of this heat. Laura Horvath so far has had the fastest time that we have seen in this event. It's presented by Beyond the Whiteboard, and it starts with that one legless rope climb, but it's been the overhead squats and the cyclone bag. That's been the difference here.
Yes, that is the separator in this workout. We've seen some lead changes happen off the legless rope climb, but after that, once athletes tend to get off through those 10 overhead squats, that is a big separator.
Laura Horvath is in the middle of the screen. Again, the fastest time that we've seen so far, she's able to shave more than a second off her time from round 2. Trying to get her 4th straight event win here.
That's probably the most pressure that she feels. Can she execute and get number 4 in a row?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, those parallel deficit handstand push-ups are looming. So Horvath trying to pile up some points here as Alexis Raptis came into this event in 11th place overall. She's looking to move inside the top 10, and there is Ellie Turner in 7th place overall. She could find a way to punch into the top 5 here after this event.
Now we're waiting to see who has it to be top 2 in this heat.
Raptis, Brandon, Horvath, Saunders, and Turner. Last heat was a battle between Brandon and Horvath, and it's looking like that's going to happen again. Brandon and Horvath make the touch at the same time on the legless rope climb, and they advance to the barbell ahead of Raptis, Saunders, and Turner.
Almost synchro in the overhead squats here, rep for rep. It's going to come down to that bag.
Brandon a little faster than Horvath right now. Final rep for both, and once again to the sandbag at the same time. Here comes Cara Saunders right behind him. Brandon is off first this time. Horvath trying to gain some ground, and Horvath is going to dive. I don't know if she made it, but Laura Horvath decides to just go full send across the finish line there, and it may have paid off, and right now, looking like it did. But those are your top 2, Laura Horvath and Danielle Brandon. Horvath, again the fastest time, this time by 0.3 of a second. Cara Saunders is going to finish 3rd in the event. That is Saunders' 2nd best finish of the competition. She took a 2nd in event 2. Ellie Turner's going to take 4th, and Raptis will take 5th. Now the question is, who takes the 100 points between Laura Horvath and Danielle Brandon, and what a race between the two of them. Take one more look at it, and this time it was Danielle Brandon who was faster on the overhead squats.
It was, and she had her literally by a fraction of a rep as we closed in on reps 7, 8, 9, and 10. And as they pin this barbell down, you're gonna notice it takes skill for them to get over that bar quick, and then of course, you got to risk it for the biscuit. Laura knows that. She committed to winning that particular heat and dove just at the right time.
Top 2 moving on, and really Horvath had to worry about Cara Saunders, but good on her for selling out there. We'll see if she has anything left in the tank to maybe pull off another win over Danielle Brandon. She's got her the last 2 heats, but Brandon closed the gap there. 0.3 of a second separating the two of them.
And hey, this event is called the Duel, and that's what we're about to see. We get to see a showdown between the two ladies who resulted in the fastest times, but also did it in the most exciting fashion.
Risky and bold strategy to take a diving header holding a 150-pound sandbag, but Laura Horvath does it, and it pays off.
They perhaps took that motivation that they watched over in right field from the children rolling aimlessly in the grass and realized they let the creative juices flow and say, that could be my answer to the problem. How can I get top 2? Be like that.
Horvath and Brandon will square off. The winner taking the event win and adding 100 points to her total. Horvath and Brandon have gone head-to-head in the last 2 rounds, with Horvath winning both times, but again, Brandon really closed the gap in that last round, just 0.3 of a second separating the two of them, as it's winner take all next.
Winner take all, and you got to wonder, does this work accumulation affect them differently than it does the other athletes? You're always going to choose to be one of the last standing. You're always going to want to put on the show. You're always going to want to fight and scrap for every point that's available. But these overhead squats, these 50 extra overhead squats that they're doing over the field, does that create a bit more fatigue?
Here's another look at how close the finish was between Horvath and Brandon. As the two of them got to the bag at the same time. And then Danielle Brandon just took off, but Laura Horvath with the dive and just planted her head just right into the field. I'm surprised she doesn't have a big white paint mark on her forehead after that.
You love to see it. Commitment to excellence, folks. Just win at whatever cost.
Danielle Brandon and Laura Horvath able to talk it over now, but pretty soon things are about to get serious.
Yep.
As they're being called back out onto the field for the final round here of the Duel II. 6th of 10 events that the athletes will face here at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. We have the Texas log awaiting this evening,
which I absolutely cannot wait to see, by the way.
Going to be fun to watch. Laura Horvath trying to bring home again her 4th straight event win here. Coming off a 3rd place finish at the CrossFit Games in August, the 2nd straight year in which she has finished on the podium in Madison. Danielle Brandon got off to a great start in the competition. Won the opening event, then took a 9th place in event 2, and then really had a hiccup in back attack where she took 19th because of a missed rep. She had to reload the barbell onto the rack and really took her out of contention. But since then, back inside the top 10, a 7th and a 3rd, and now at least a 2nd place finish here in the Duel II.
Yeah, and this is where psychology plays a bit of a game here on athletes. Are you content with being one of the last 2? Or do you really want that 100 points? And it's going to take focus, and it's going to take a lot of tenacity here. But just like we saw from both these ladies in the last heat, they're not going to leave anything out on that field through this event.
Last 2 heats, Laura Horvath has gotten the best of Danielle Brandon. Will the 3rd time be the charm for Brandon here as she looks to bring home her 2nd event win of the competition? Horvath going for her 4th win of the competition and her 4th straight. Here we go, winner take all, 100 points on the line. Danielle Brandon looks like she has a slight lead over Laura Horvath on this legless rope climb, making the touch ahead of Horvath and Brandon. to the barbell first, and she gets a rep in just ahead of Laura Horvath, the same scenario that we saw in the last heat.
Yeah, right now working with a full rep ahead this time.
Brandon, final rep for her. Barbell is down, barbell down for Horvath, and it's going to come down again to the bag. Horvath has it.
Wow.
She is ahead of Brandon right now, and Laura Horvath make it 4 in a row.
Yeah, give her those fireworks. What a show, and what a come from behind victory that she just executed. That's amazing focus.
Fourth straight event win for Laura Horvath, and she is going to have a stranglehold on the top spot in the overall standings with 4 events remaining.
What a feeling she's got to experience right there. Fruits of hard labor.
Danielle Brandon looked like she might have had it as she once again got to the barbell first. But Laura Horvath on the overhead squats, her pace was just slightly faster. And as she did in the last round, was able to have a very good pace on the cyclone bag and gets across the finish line. One more look at how it went down. Horvath and Brandon head-to-head for the win.
Head-to-head, Danielle had the slight lead right out of the gate and into the rope. Even in the overhead squats, she was a rep ahead of Laura. But as these ladies started to wrap up the overhead squats, it was Laura who was first to the bag and take a few steps, and it gained her that victory, which is 4 in a row.
Overall standings, Laura Horvath now a 60-point lead over Annie Thorisdottir, continuing to climb and now inside the top 2. Gabby Magawa sits in 3rd place, 65 points back. And Danielle Brandon, she will move up into 4th place. Kiki Dixon is with Laura Horvath.
Laura, you just had your 4th Rogue Invitational event win in a row. I don't think anybody's ever done that before. How high are the confidence levels right now?
Oh, it's pretty high. I can't wait for the last one tonight.
You and Danielle had the opportunity to go head-to-head several times as you cycled through this event. What did you learn about yourself and Danielle as you went through each round?
It was awesome. It was actually a race every single time when we were next to each other, so it was awesome. I really liked it. You just had to go really fast, but also don't get no reps, so it was you had to pace it a little bit, but also full send. So I don't know, it was awesome.
She went full send, it worked. Congratulations on your 4th Rogue Invitational event win, Laura.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys, you're the best.
The streak continues for Laura Horvath. Now 4 straight wins. She moves into 3rd all-time on the career wins list at the Rogue Invitational. Now with 4 behind Pat Vellner and Tia Toomey, and all by herself on top of the overall standings. Women are done with the duel. It's the men's turn. Coming up next at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. We saw the women go through the Duel II. Now it's the men's turn as action continues on Saturday at the 2022 Rogue Invitational from Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas. Thanks for being with us, everybody. I'm Sean Woodland with 3-time Affiliate Cup champion Adrian Conway, and Kiki Dixon is down on the field.
Sean.
Overall standings coming in. Sorry, Adrian. Roman Krennikov, 10-point lead now over Justin Medeiros. Pat Vellner has moved up into 3rd place. He is 15 points up on Sam Quant, and Jeff Adler sits in 5th with 370 points. The Duel II, presented by Beyond the Whiteboard, is up next, and it's the same movements we saw with the women.
And this is another fast one. It's 1 legless rope climb, 10 overhead squats at 135 pounds for these guys, which they can move quickly. And then we've got a cyclone bag carry, and it's 75 feet at 200 pounds.
Keys to the event.
The keys are simple. They have to be deadly accurate. Hand over hand on the rope climbs, fast descend, perfect depth on the squats. Get low enough, stand tall enough, make them count. And then, of course, you got to hit the transitions with as much focus as you can. That's the fourth and hidden element of this test.
Scott Tetlow, Jack Farlow, Tim Paulson, Jorge Fernandez, and Lazar Jukic will be the first 5 men out. Same story with the men as it was with the women. The top 5 men in the overall standings get a bye into round 2. We are underway. Opening heat for the men in event 6.
Farlow's fast up that rope.
Jack Farlow, the first man to make the touch and the first man to the 135-pound barbell, followed by Jorge Fernandez and Lazar Jukic. Tetlow is getting hit with some no reps there on the left of the screen. He got 2 in a row.
And that's going to be costly. Fernandez first off the bar to the sandbag.
Fernandez in the bag first, followed by Farlow and Jukic. Here comes Paulson. Tetlow just got finished. Farlow drops the bag. Fernandez is in first. Jukic will be second. Paulson cannot catch Farlow. And here comes Tetlow in 5th. A mistake for Jack Farlow may have cost him the event win, as Jorge Fernandez is going to log the fastest time in Heat 1.
You know, there's something I'll say to having the advantage of a lot of team experience, which Jorge does have in droves, is that you're used to maximizing your particular speed and intensity anytime that you can in order to either get your teammates on the field or on the floor, or of course to make sure that you're not the slowest link. So that could be an advantage for him in this particular event.
Jorge Fernandez will take heat number 1 as we take one more look back. And Jack Farlow got off to a great start. He was the first man off the rope and looked like he was going to be able to hold on to the lead until he drops the bag.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, even as we were watching the female, Sean, it's those latter 2 movements that mean the most. It's the 10 overhead squats and then the transition to that bag and getting it over the finish line. And that's where Jorge Fernandez seized the opportunity.
Fernandez had a great pace on that. I don't think Farlow was going to be able to hold him off, but maybe a top 2 finish had Farlow not dropped that Cyclone bag. 200 pounds is on the bag for the men. We are set for the second of these 3 opening heats. There is Cole Sager. He will be out there with Jonakoski, Saxon Panchik, Heinrich Happelainen, and Nick Matthew.
Cole Sager has a pretty fast cycle rate on his squats. This could be something that allows him to have some good success here.
And Sager has put on some pretty good performances in the past in events that feature rope climbs. Sager's had an up and down competition so far. Started with an 11th place in the Texas Trail, then got into the top 10 with a 9th, then a 16th, an 8th, then an 18th. 14th place overall is Sager. You saw Nick Matthew, he's in 15th place overall. Saxon Panchik, 11th place, has 3 finishes of 10th out of 5 events. The 2 Finnish athletes in the field have been joined at the hip. I think they've competed together in every heat so far. Heinrich Happelainen is coming off his best finish of the competition. He took 3rd in the Turtle. Saw Nick Matthew. He has an event win under his belt. He won back attack. 30 seconds before we start.
Happelainen's probably the tallest athlete out there, and that might give him a slight advantage being the first up the rope here. But then, of course, because of the balance of this test, that's where he could have some trouble on the overhead squats as well.
Happelainen 6'1". Heat number 2 has begun. And it is Haapalainen, Matthew, and Sager. They all made the touch at about the same time, and all 5 men right to work on the 10 overhead squats at 135 pounds.
Koski with a no rep.
He's still on the lead pace, though. Matthew with the barbell down first, along with Cole Sager, different ends of the field. Here come Haapalainen and Panchik, and now Koski. Nick Matthew ahead of Cole Sager. Matthew is in first. Sager gets across, maybe not. It may have been Haapalainen. Koski's going to beat Panchik across the finish line. We will wait for the official scores, but it was close between Heinrich Haapalainen and Cole Sager. Nick Matthew, though, will get the heat win, as we now have 1 heat remaining in the opening round.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
The equipment team doing a great job all weekend long, getting things reset in a timely fashion, just lugging equipment on and off the field. We thank them for their efforts.
Their preparedness is unmatched. Literally, in our walkthrough day, I watched them take reps after reps of getting things on, getting things off, timing it, knowing exactly what it was going to take to allow this event to have success. It's amazing to watch.
Noah Olson giving the folks at home a wave. It will be Olson, Chandler Smith, Bjorven Gudmundsson, Jason Hopper, and Ricky Garrard in heat number 3. Let's go back and take another look at that heat. And it was really even off the start.
Very even. Matthew had a quick reach at the top and in a very fast descent that allowed him to get to those overhead squats first. A clean run of 10 reps, and they were fast, and it allowed him to make slight work of this bag. What a quick pickup, and immediately into his first step.
Nick Matthew takes the heat, and like I said, it was close behind him between Sager and Haapalainen.
You love to see it. When you come off with an event win like that and you catch stride, you're just like, yeah, let's just keep it moving. I want to roll back and run this back as soon as I can because I'm in the zone right now.
The men of heat number 3 here in the opening round are out on the field. Again, it's Ricky Garrard, Jason Hopper, Bjorven Gudmundsson, Chandler Smith, and Noah Olson.
One thing to watch as we watch the athletes transition from this overhead squat to the bag, regardless of where they're at, is do they pick it up with their feet parallel to one another, or are they picking it up and as they reach it to that braced position, are they in stride walking forward? Danielle Brandon actually did a really great job of that for the females, and of course it allowed her to get that top 2 finish. And I think we saw the same thing there from Nick Matthews, so I'm anxious to watch some of that here take place as we watch these rounds unfold in front of us.
Bjorven Carl Gudmundsson in 6th place. One of the most consistent CrossFit athletes that we have seen over the last 10 years, and there is Chandler Smith. Great to see him back out here in live competition after what happened to him at the Granite Games and the medical issues that he was dealing with that kept him from earning a qualifying spot to the CrossFit Games. Chandler Smith, though, has had 2 finishes outside of the top 10, trying to correct that here in the Duel II. And there is Jason Hopper, the man who started the competition with an event win in the Texas Trail. He is one of 4 athletes who have 300 points. Hopper in 7th place overall coming in. Third and final heat of round 1. 33.87 seconds. That is the top time so far. Ricky Garrard got up there in a hurry along with Hopper and Chandler Smith. Garrard is the first man to work on the overhead squats along with Chandler Smith.
A bit of a stumble from Ricky. Otherwise, he's going to have a pretty fast cycle rate here. Chandler is moving.
Chandler Smith looks to be the first man done with the overhead squats, but it's Noah Olson who gains some ground. Olson first to the bag. Smith is second, followed by Gudmundsson, Gerard, and Hopper. Noah Olsen's going to take the heat. Chandler Smith has got to be careful, as Bjorgvin Gudmundsson was right there. Hopper's going to beat Gerard across the finish, but Noah Olsen with the heat win, looking to move on to round 2.
Just got to do that 6 more times.
Chandler Smith just does hold off Bjorgvin Gudmundsson. Jason Hopper coming in ahead of Ricky Gerard. Top 10 times from round 1 will move on to round number 2. And the top 5 men in the overall standings got a bye directly into round number 2, but a heat win for Noah Olsen.
And you've got to finish. We watched Noah come out. He is not the first off the rope, and that is okay. And he probably trusted that in the process of this, knowing if he stayed the course with his overhead squats, it's where he could take the lead. And he makes small work of this big bag and gets it across the finish line very quickly. Great grip and great approach to picking it up and getting it moving.
Noah Olsen, 10th place overall.
Woo!
Coming into the event, looking to move on here in the Duel 2. We will find out who will be in round 2 after a quick break. Stay with us here at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. We are through the first round of event 6 of 10, the Duel 2, presented by Beyond the Whiteboard here at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. And the men who received a bye into round 2, the top 5 in the overall standings, will be up first.
This is a fast event, Sean. 1 legless rope climb for the men, 10 overhead squats at 135 pounds, and then, of course, the race to the finish with that cyclone bag for 75 feet.
200 pounds is what that cyclone bag weighs. Justin Medeiros is part of this heat right now, 2nd place overall, and a rare mistake for him in the last event where he got hit with a no rep on the lunge portion of the turtle. A 12th place finish. Rare to see him outside of the top 10. Right now in 2nd place, 10 points back though of Roman Krenikov.
You know, we forget about this with Justin Medeiros is that he is the 2nd youngest male in this field. How will he respond psychologically to this new pressure that he's found on himself? Plenty of scores left, yes, but an outside the 10 top finish, very rare for him. And with an event that actually involves such pressure each and every time you take the field, what's he gonna show us here in this event?
Justin Medeiros last year in the duel squared off with Guy Medeiros in the finals. And he had clean runs throughout that event. So he is a man who knows how to execute under pressure. He'll be out there with Sam Quant, Roman Krenikov, Pat Vellner, and Jeffrey Adler.
What a lineup.
Opening heat of round number 2 of the Duel 2. Top 10 times, moving on. Roman Krenikov in the middle is just about even with Justin Medeiros. Medeiros, Quant, and Vellner were the first 3 men through the rope climb. Vellner gets to work on his overhead squat, just a fraction of a rep ahead of Quant and Medeiros. Medeiros with a great pace here.
Yep.
And a no rep for Roman Krenikov. Vellner with the barbell down. Medeiros and Vellner first to the bag. Here come Adler and
Great
Quant.
transition from Medeiros.
Krenikov now in trouble. He's the last man in the bag. Medeiros will take the heat. Vellner is 2nd. Quant and Adler are across. Krenikov needs to hurry. So Roman Krenikov will finish in 5th. The top 10 times move on. We still have 2 heats to go. But that could open the door for Justin Medeiros to retake the lead here.
What execution by Justin there. Didn't start off in the lead. We saw Vellner jump out front early. But boy, he stayed the course, gained some ground on those overhead squats. And I'm going to tell you right now, his transition to the bag to get it off the ground and get it moving was the fastest that I've seen all day.
Justin Medeiros looking to move on to round 3. Just the top 10 times from this round moving on. And Roman Krenikov is in a little bit of trouble here. One more look here, and These athletes got a bye, so it's the first time that they've been able to attack this event. And while they did get the rest, they did not get the experience out on the field.
Yeah, you got to wonder, and not an opportunity to touch through one of these rounds out there on the field. Did it hold them back? Did it hinder them in any way? They should feel fresh, but also we see that kind of play out in some of these athletes' favor as they catch a groove. Justin, it didn't affect him one bit.
Justin Medeiros with a heat win. Pat Vellner came in after him, and there was a tight finish between Quant and Adler, but we do know that Roman Krennikov, 5th place in that heat. He's going to need some help to move on here.
We have seen some crazy things happen in these events so far, in these heats of this particular event. No reps on the overhead squats, sandbags taking a spill, athletes taking a spill, and not always over the finish line. So it could happen.
5 men in the next heat: Jason Hopper, Lazar Jukic, Jorvin Gudmundsson, and Heinrich Hapalainen, along with Jonakoski.
An event with this type of speed, Sean, really emphasizes the importance of practice. You know, and I don't mean that from a perspective of only competitors at the elite level. I mean, the day-to-day athletes in CrossFit affiliates across the world have to be able to put a prime emphasis on their ability to practice skill work, whether it's understanding and identifying the proper depth for your personal overhead squat, how to stand it up all the way, how not to just climb a rope several times in a row, but how to do it quickly. And, of course, we love to play with odd objects. But I think we're really seeing the fruits of a lot of certainty from these athletes that do this at a very high speed, and you don't gain that certainty and that confidence without skills and drills. And that takes time and intentional practice in order to develop.
We are through 1 of 3 heats here in round number 2. As we await the 5 men who will be in heat number 2. Hopper, Jukic, Gudmundsson, Hapalainen, and Koski.
Dukic moved through round 1 pretty darn well for experiencing a rolled ankle early this weekend. So it's good to see him doing his thing and being able to still perform at a pretty high level here amongst some of the fittest in the world.
Yeah, despite competing on a bit of a bum wheel, I mean, Lazar Jukic is in 20th place overall, but you got to admire him for staying out there and competing.
Yeah, it's just, you know, and it's hard. It's a hard choice. I'm sure it was a hard choice for him, his coach, to make, because it's like, do we risk your health? Do we risk further injuring yourself? But then you look at the stage and the opportunity that's set here at the Rogue Invitational, where you get to learn so much about yourself personally, and then, of course, you get an opportunity to go head-to-head with the best in the world at a sport that he's trying to continue to grow his greatness in. And clearly he feels good enough to compete, but probably couldn't turn down this great opportunity that's out here in front of him.
5 men in heat number 2 coming out to the field. Heinrich Hapalainen will be one of them.
Yeah, Heinrich finishing 21st at this year's CrossFit Games, is a big frame, 6'1", 207 pounds. He's an athlete with high work capacity, and we're really going to see, can he line up and move fast against some of these shorter statured or shorter levered athletes.
There is Jason Hopper, who comes in 7th place overall, back-to-back 6th place finishes coming into this event. He does have an event win under his belt in the Texas Trail on Thursday. There's Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson in a very Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson-like position on the overall leaderboard, 6th place coming in. And then Jonakoski, who comes in 12th place overall.
Styling with that backwards hat tipped up. You gotta love it.
And there Lazar Jukic, who once again had that ankle injury, rolled his ankle on the Texas Trail and has stayed in the competition, continues to fight here. Heinrich Happelainen, 13th place overall with 215 points, but he is coming off his best finish of the competition in the Turtle. Earlier today, he took third to earn 90 points.
Yeah, he made fast work of that Turtle on the rope. Let's see how he climbs this one.
Heat 2 of round 2. Koski, Jukic, and Hopper all making the touch at the same time. Koski's one of the first men to the barbell. No rep for Happelainen. Hand in the air for Jukic and Gudmundsson.
Yeah, Dukic's transition under the bar was astonishing. He didn't even extend his hips all the way for a squat snatch. He dropped directly under the bar. It was terribly impressive.
Jukic and Koski get to the bag first, followed closely by Bjorn Karl Gudmundsson and Jason Hopper. And bum, ankle, and all, Lazar Jukic looks like he's going to take the heat. Jona Koski, though, dove across the finish line, and it was not enough. So Lazar Jukic, 35.86 seconds.
Wow.
Heinrich Happelainen, now the slowest time in that heat at 40.07.
Great job there by Dukic, and I think a lot of the success that he had there was his transition from that rope under the barbell to begin those overhead squats was extremely impressive, especially considering the fact that to move well in overhead squat, we got to have some good dorsiflexion in that ankle joint, and with an injury due to inflammation and discomfort, that is a hard and compromised position to put yourself in. How impressive that he's able to grind through this and not just survive, but be thriving here in a sprint event like this.
And putting himself in great position to move on to round 3. Top 10 times from this round will move on. We have one heat left here in round number 2. Let's go back and take a look at that last heat. And man, this was dead even for most of it.
It really was. Dead even across the board. We watched the athletes transition to that overhead squat. Dukic was the first one to get that barbell moving and get the reps to begin to count. And I think that's really what set him apart and allowed him to set the pace for this and get moving on that sandbag quickly.
He was battling with Jona Koski on the far end of the field. Koski, you can't see it here, but we'll show it to you in a second, tried to dive across the finish line.
In stylish fashion, he didn't have to tuck and roll. He timed it just right. Gave him his placing by 100th of a second.
Good enough for second place in the heat for Jona Koski and setting himself up nicely to move into round 3, but we still have one heat left. And the 5 men in that heat are gathering in the dugout down the third base line here at Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas. Noah Olson, Nick Matthew, Jorge Fernandez, and Chandler Smith are there, and it looks like Cole Sager as well.
As he's waking up some muscles in his posterior. We do that often. Hit the legs. Are they still there? Yep, they're still there. Hips, good. Yep, still a little sore. We've done a lot of squatting here. We've done a lot of fitness. You got to wake that body up, get it ready for some more.
Cole Sager has been to the CrossFit Games every year since he made his debut in 2014. His best career finish there was 5th. That was in 2016. He has also won the Spirit of the Games award. Good look at Dell Diamond Stadium in Round Rock, Texas. Second straight year it has played host to the Rogue Invitational. This competition started back in 2019, and they held it at Rogue headquarters in Columbus. 2020, of course, it was held virtually. And then in 2021, it moved here to Round Rock. And then last year, they added the strongman competition. We still have 2 strongman events left today, and 1 CrossFit event after this.
Which I got to say, Sean, I've never watched strongman in person. This is a first for me. And man, It's so exciting. So exciting to watch and experience here firsthand.
It's incredible to watch some of the things that those athletes are capable of. And we still have 2 events for the strongman coming up later. We have the yoke log and then the stone over hitching post. And then we'll see the CrossFit athletes take on a log press this evening as well. And then earlier today, we started the competition with the strongman, and it was the Rogue Coaster, which is out there in left field. And that was a fun event to watch. And I was talking to Lawrence Chalet and Brian Shaw, the 4-time world's strongest man, about this. And this is a test you see a lot in strongman events. And you could have accomplished a similar stimulus with a different apparatus, but what Rogue always does is they make a spectacle of it. They make it look great, and that Rogue Coaster is pretty impressive out there, as Martins Litzis was able to grab the event win. He is your defending Rogue Invitational Strongman champion. Event 6 here for the CrossFit athletes is the Duel II. Legless rope climbs, some overhead squats, and then the 200-pound sandbag carry across the finish line. And we are now ready for the 3rd and final heat of round 2. It's going to be Chandler Smith, Jorge Fernandez, Nick Matthew, Noah Olson, and Cole Sager.
This is going to be a great heat to watch, and not that any of them haven't been so far, but there are some extremely fast squatters in this particular heat, and I think it's going to lead to a really exciting showdown here.
There is Chandler Smith. We had a little bit of a delay as there was another scoring appeal. And the scoring team and judges want to make sure they get that right, so they take all the time they need to make sure they do whatever they can to accomplish that. Noah Olson coming in 10th place overall. He is one of 4 athletes who came in tied with 300 points.
9-time CrossFit Games competitor, Sean. Could this year make it number 10 for him?
And also received the Spirit of the Games Award this past August. And there is Nick Matthew, who had an impressive performance at the CrossFit Games and got in as a backfill and made the most of that opportunity, as Matthew wound up finishing 14th overall in his rookie year and actually had 2 event wins.
Yeah, extremely impressive. Let's get this party started.
Third and final heat of round 2 is underway, and it's Nick Matthew and Chandler Smith out early after the legless rope climb. They will be first to the barbell, followed by Fernandez, Olson, and then Sager.
Noah's cycle rate still just besting everybody on the field.
Final rep for Noah Olson, barbell down along with Fernandez and Chandler Smith. Olson and Fernandez get to the bag first, but Fernandez again sprinting across the finish line with that. Olson will finish second, followed by Chandler Smith, Sager, and Matthew. 32.76 seconds for Jorge Fernandez.
Cooking. That boy fast. Great job of executing clean. Again, the way he approaches the sandbag, it's such confidence that he gets it up and he's taking a step right as he bellies that thing, and it allows him to get several steps ahead of the competition.
Fernandez in 18th place overall coming into this event, but so far looking like the man to beat in this 6th of 10 events here. 2 really impressive runs for him so far. And now we will wait and find out who the top 10 are. And these are going to be some nervous moments for Roman Krennikov because he came in with that 10-point lead over Justin Medeiros, and there is a chance that Roman will not advance. One more look at that last heat, and Jorge Fernandez for the second straight time coming across the finish line first. 32.76 seconds. That is the fastest time we have seen.
Jorge did a great job, a lot like we saw from Dukic, getting under the bar without doing a full squat snatch. Those are the details that other competitors commonly can overlook. And that's what created some separation for him and advantage in this.
We will wait to find out who will move on. 10 athletes will head to round 3 here in the Duel II. Stay with us as action continues at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. We have figured out the top 10 men that will move on to round 3. Jorge Fernandez, who had the fastest time that we've seen, no shock that he's there, along with Noah Olson, Justin Medeiros, and Pat Vellner. They will be in heat number 2, along with Chandler Smith. Lazar Jukic will be in heat 1, Bjorn Gudmundsson, and this is not looking good for Roman Krennikov. Nick Matthew along with Cole Sager. So Roman Krennikov does not get out of round 2, and he will not be your overall leader after this event. The door now wide open for both Justin Medeiros and Pat Vellner. Medeiros came into the event just 10 points back of Krennikov. Vellner just 15 points back. We saw something similar last year. Pat Vellner came into the final event, the duel, 30 points back at Justin Medeiros. He got a bye, did Vellner, and then was knocked out in round 2.
Yeah, you wonder if they missed that extra touch, that extra run through of this particular event with intensity, with the intention. It's very different than just going out and getting a warm up. And we saw a similar thing happen with Gabby Magala on the women's side as well today, Sean. So it could be the setback of not having quite to do as much work as the rest of the field.
A mistake in event 5 cost Justin Medeiros, and now a mistake in event 6 could prove to be very costly for Roman Krennikov. Top 5 times out of this round will advance. It's Cole Sager, Bjorn Gudmundsson, Lazar Jukic, Jona Koski, and Nick Matthew, who will be out first. Nick Matthew comes in 15th place overall. Won an event yesterday in back attack.
Yeah, and he's strong. Good squatter. Great at seizing the moment, which we got to see at the CrossFit Games put on full display, executing new movements both in gymnastics and with the jump rope this year and excelling in that. And we know that his coach has said he's just here to learn and gain experience. Well, he's got another opportunity to do that right now.
We are underway. First of 2 heats here in round 3. Everybody done it about the same time. Sager and Koski getting to the barbell first, followed by Matthew, Jukic, and Gudmundsson.
Koski, similar technique to what we saw from Dukic there in the previous round, getting under the bar quickly, not quite extending all the way through that squat snatch.
Jukic got hit with a no rep. Koski now in front by himself. Nick Matthew and Cole Sager behind him, followed by Jukic and Gudmundsson. Jona Koski is going to hold off Nick Matthew. Sager comes across, followed by Jukic, and then Bjorn Karl Gudmundsson. Jona Koski wins his heat, 34.42 seconds. Nick Matthew was gaining on him, just ran out of real estate. Matthew's going to take second, followed by Cole Sager, Jukic, and then Bjorn Karl Gudmundsson with 1 heat remaining here in round 3.
Yeah, great pacing right out of the gate by Jona. He was fast up that rope. It was very close overall, but just a slight advantage coming down, getting to the bar, very clean and getting under it and starting to count those overhead squats. Got in the lead going into the bag.
Koski looking to move his way into round 4.
There we go. Yona, one of the first off the bag. Quick transition to the bar, and look at that squat speed.
Lazar Jukic, who was neck and neck with Koski, got hit with a no rep, and Yona Koski took advantage.
He did, and even what we saw, as we saw Nick Matthew kind of gaining speed on him, had there been another 20 feet left, boy, we could be talking about a different result, but Yona literally paced it just right for the task that was ahead of him.
Heat win for Yona Koski. As one heat remains here in round 3. Justin Medeiros, Jorge Fernandez, who has the fastest time of anybody we have seen so far, followed by Noah Olson, Pat Vellner. Chandler Smith also among the 5 men who will be out there. And it's a big heat right now for both Pat Vellner and Justin Medeiros, the 2 men who are right behind Roman Krennikov in the overall standings. Roman has been knocked out, and he had just a 10-point lead on Medeiros for the overall lead and a 15-point lead on Pat Vellner. Justin Medeiros trying to become the first man to repeat as Rogue Invitational champion.
And there's Pat Vellner, and he, you know, this is big for Pat because it's not just about Justin poising himself or creating potential to take the crown. It's where can Pat go and how can he manage to create or use this as an advantage to gain on Roman and hopefully overtake him in his position.
Vellner, the 2020 Rogue Invitational champion. There is Justin Medeiros, who had that one hiccup in the turtle event, the no rep on the lunge. It was his first finish outside the top 5 so far in the competition. He took 12th in that event.
His last run through this, Sean, was clean and fast.
So was that man's. Jorge Fernandez so far has been the fastest in this event. Fernandez, as I said earlier, 18th place overall coming in. But if he keeps up the work that he's been doing, he could very well win this event. And there is Chandler Smith, who is 8th overall. Best finish so far was a 2nd place in event 2, ski bar. Second and final heat of round 3 of the Duel II. Smith and Medeiros flying up that rope. Pat Vellner was the first man to the barbell. Medeiros' cycle time in the last heat was faster than Vellner's. But Vellner right now is hanging on to the lead. He'll have the barbell down at the same time as Medeiros. Here come Chandler Smith and Jorge Fernandez. Medeiros is off first. Look out, because Fernandez is gaining ground. Jorge Fernandez trying to overtake Medeiros.
Oh, it's going to be close.
I don't know who won that. I think Vellner's going to finish 3rd.
Wow.
We'll have to wait for the scores. It looked like Vellner edged out Smith across the finish line. We have yet to get his time, but it seems like Medeiros was able to hold off Jorge Fernandez by about 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, where it stands, I'll tell you, Justin really took advantage. Again, his transition to the bag to get it from being completely still on the ground to moving it forward towards the finish line is impressive. He doesn't get as low as most of the competitors under the bag and try to scoop it. He literally just places his fingers just enough under it, confidently picks it up, and gets to work.
Justin Medeiros winning the heat and looks to move into the final round, top 5 times coming in, and we'll have to sort out the finish here because it was close.
Very close, and I'll tell you what, it was a bit of a hidden element, but Fernandez got hit with a no rep in the middle of those overhead squats, and if that doesn't happen, well, we could be having a different discussion, clearly. They dropped the bar close to the same time. Just a quick pickup there by Medeiros, and that is what sets him apart with just enough lead. But look at Fernandez gaining.
It was that close. And then Vellner on the far end of the field looks like he may have beaten Smith across the finish line, but we have to wait on the official score because that was extremely close between the two of them. Top 5 moving on to round 4. Things getting serious here in event number 6, the Duel II at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. We are almost down to the final 5 athletes of event 6 for the CrossFit competition, the Duel II here at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. The strongmen are getting warmed up for their next event, the yoke carry overhead log lift medley out there in left field, and we actually saw one of them, Mitch Hooper, go over to the barbell where the CrossFit athletes have been warming up and try an overhead squat, and the crowd got some kicks out of that. Mitch definitely did not hit depth, but still it is cool to see both sports coming together here at the Rogue Invitational. Last year was the first time that Rogue added the strongman competition, and it's the first time I think a lot of CrossFit fans got to see strongman in action, and it's a lot of fun to check out. It's cool that it's on display here on this stage.
I think so. It's a beautiful thing to watch communities combine and actually grow together. You know, the more eyes and the more eyes that we can have on our sport, awesome. The more eyes that they can have on their sport, even better. And I had conversations with strongmen that said watching the CrossFit athletes maneuver the bag the way they did at the CrossFit Games will actually push their sport, and specifically even on the female side, for the future.
Well, Rob Kearney on the left side of your screen in those multicolored tights actually got his start in strongman through CrossFit, and he is a member of Matt Fraser's HWPO team. So we look forward to seeing that event later on. But right now, the business at hand is figuring out who the 5 men who will move on to round 4 of the Duel II will be. And here we go. Justin Medeiros. No surprise that Jorge Fernandez is there as well. And Pat Vellner. Chandler Smith has made it through. And finally, Yona Koski. So another big opportunity for Pat Vellner and Justin Medeiros to put some distance between themselves and overall leader Roman Krennikov, who did not make it out of round 2. Medeiros was just 10 points back of Krennikov to start the event. Vellner 15.
And the 2 athletes that had the fastest times here in that coming out of that previous round were Medeiros and Fernandez. And Fernandez was the one that got hit with the no rep on those overhead squats. Can he clean up this run and allow it to project him through and be top 2 again to get that opportunity on the final round?
And there is Jorge Fernandez, who came in 18th place overall, making the most of this event here. Yona Koski, who's looking to punch into the top 10, came in 12th with 250 total points. Top 2 times will move on out of this heat and square off one final time in a winner-take-all heat.
We talk about seizing the moment, Sean, and Chandler Smith has something to prove to himself. He's out here literally, again, competing with the fittest on earth, and he didn't get an opportunity to display that at the CrossFit Games this year as he ran into some trouble at the Granite Games physically due to his health. And now this is a stage for him to see where his fitness is, put his best foot forward, and really see where this 2023 season is going to go for him.
Round 4 underway. Top 2 men moving on. Justin Medeiros and Pat Vellner at the same time make the touch, and then Koski stumbles coming off the mat. Chandler Smith got to work first on the overhead squats just ahead of Vellner and Medeiros, and Vellner a no rep. He's moving pretty quickly here.
2 no reps for Koski as well.
Medeiros and Chandler Smith. Here comes Jorge Fernandez.
Medeiros has to go quick with that bag. Jorge's going to make slight work. Lots of speed.
Here comes Fernandez. It's going to be Medeiros, Fernandez, Chandler Smith, Pat Vellner, and then Yona Koski is going to finish in 5th place. For the second straight year in this format, Justin Medeiros will find himself in the final round going head-to-head with Jorge Fernandez. And again, it was close between the two of them across the finish line.
What a race.
Pat Vellner is going to finish 4th in this event. That is going to be good enough for 85 points. Chandler Smith will take 3rd. He'll earn 90 points. And then Yonakoski finishing 5th will add 80 to his total. So Justin Medeiros looking to be your overall leader heading into the 3rd and final event of the day. Yonakoski, the first man we've seen stumble coming off the mat, but there's just so many things that you don't even think about that when you think about transitions, but he fell, and that cost him. And then we had a couple no reps from Pat Vellner, who was moving at a really fast pace on those overhead squats.
And I'll tell you, that's the unique thing about this event. Sean, if you're thinking about anything, you're already in trouble, right? Like, this is completely a go fast, take chances event where athletes are out there when they're executing well in a complete flow state, which means they almost hear the beep, and then all of a sudden they come to consciousness as they pass the finish line, not even really sure what happened. And a lot of times that's how they optimize their performance. They're in a place where they're simply out there executing the movement standards and finishing as fast as possible.
Noah Olson taking some time to sign some autographs here and take some pictures. One more look at that 4th round heat. And keep an eye on Pat Vellner, who had a really fast pace here on the overhead squat, but the no reps cost him.
Yep. And that's where you get it, folks. Accuracy is key. We talked about that right out of the gate. You've got to stand the reps up all the way. It's not just about the squat depth. But then Medeiros has such a quick transition to get the bag up, but Fernandez is running with that thing each and every round.
It's going to come down to Jorge Fernandez versus Justin Medeiros in the winner-take-all final. 100 points on the line in the Duel II, the 6th of 10 events here at the 2022 Rogue Invitational. And so far, it's been a pretty fun show to watch here with the men. Justin Medeiros, again for the 2nd straight year in this dual format, moving on to the finals. Last year he was squaring off with Medeiros. This year it's going to be Jorge Fernandez.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it doesn't matter what we see. Justin seizing the opportunity to maybe make up some points on Roman. But I know that his coach, Adam Neefer, is always echoing in his ear, you fight and you scrap for every point available. So it's not enough that he's just out there top 2. He's not going to let off the gas. He's going to do whatever he can to seize the moment and get these 100 points that are available to him right now.
Regardless of what happens here in that final heat, Jorge Fernandez has guaranteed himself his best finish of the competition. He'll take at least 2nd in the event. His first finish inside the top 10. Came in an 18th place overall, looking to move up the standings. Heading into the 7th event later tonight, the Texas Log.
Now, from what I know, Sean, Jorge is already committed to going team one more time at least out there with his crew from Invictus. They had a great showing at the CrossFit Games this last year. And if all those members are back, they've got to be a heavy favorite in my mind with the way they executed and everything else. Not that that's on his mind right now. But when I watch him take the floor, I'm like, hey, they're going to have a mean team coming back next year.
The team division will be very interesting in 2023 for sure.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of folks that we probably don't even know about yet that are already making some alliances, and sending some text messages and making some phone calls.
Travel arrangements.
You know it.
Lodging, getting taken care of.
The questions might be thrown out. Can you watch my kids for 3 weeks while I'm away handling business?
Medeiros and Jorge Fernandez are being given a chance to catch their breath before they're brought back out on the floor for the final time. And if Jorge Fernandez can just get to the bag around the same time as Medeiros, you got to like him in that portion of the event, but Medeiros seems to have the edge in the other 2 movements.
Yeah, so far it's certainly what we've seen. So it's, and here's what I'll say. We've gotten to watch champions and the way they carry themselves. I've seen this from Tia where this could ultimately be a big bait by Justin. And I'm not saying that this is in the back of his mind or that he wouldn't have this level of awareness, but has he reserved a few gears in his sandbag carry every round just to make Jorge think he's got a chance to nip at his heels, and maybe he'll be able to go full send here on this final round.
There is Jorge Fernandez, who was 22nd in the team division at the CrossFit Games last year, a former collegiate pitcher at San Diego State, and a pretty good one at that. Held opposing hitters to a 227 batting average with runners on base, and those hitters went just 11 for 56 in his senior year with 2 outs, so knew how to deliver when the pressure was on, when he was on the mound.
You gotta really like the carryover. Anytime an athlete has experience on the field, on the court, and sports at a high level, and they get an opportunity to express it in a new endeavor, the similarities are sometimes not very obvious to some, but in an athlete's mind, it's all the same.
Fernandez used to one-on-one matchups between a pitcher and a batter, and Justin Medeiros used to those matchups on the wrestling mat.
We're in for a showdown here, folks.
Winner take all, Fernandez versus Medeiros here in the Duel II. Medeiros first up the rope, he'll be first to the barbell. Fernandez got hung up a little bit.
Yeah, the descend matters, and there is a skill and a technique in the proper descend to allow yourself to not get hung up in that rope, and Justin showed us there.
Fernandez making up a little ground here. Medeiros is going to be the first man to the sandbag, but here comes Fernandez.
Can he make up the ground? It looks like it's too much.
Medeiros is going to hold him off, and an event win for the defending Rogue champion. 31.31 seconds for Justin Medeiros. Who picks up his second win of the competition and rebounds nicely from that 12th place finish earlier in the day. And maybe paying the price for that dive across the finish line.
He might have made some tough contact with that sandbag, Sean, as he dove across the line.
That's a light way of putting it. He seems to be okay.
What execution, though, there by the champ. Seizing the moment, doing exactly what he needed to do when he needed to do it to earn himself another 100 points. As usual, scrapping and fighting for every point available.
And I misspoke earlier. Medeiros wound up finishing third last year in the dual event. It was Sam Kwan who faced off with Guy Medeiros, so my apologies to Sam Kwan, who tends to get overlooked all the time.
Justin attacking that rope with the eye of the tiger. He is fast up the rope, but watch his descent. It's clean. He's got that fireman descent with the slight cross of his legs, regripping the bar just in time. And what a transition into the overhead squats. Showing the judge exactly what he needs to see. Proper depth, full hip extension at the top. Bar stays aligned over the midfoot throughout all 10 reps, and that allows him to pin the bar and get to the bag just ahead of Jorge and finish with that suicide dive for the dub.
Paid the price for the dive, but he does get the win, and Justin Medeiros is with Kiki Dixon.
Justin, an incredible finish to this event. It looked like you were hungry for it. What were you willing to risk to get the W?
Man, willing to risk it all. We've had 2 events back-to-back, super high risk, no room to really miss. And on the last event, I had a big mistake, cost me big, and I knew this was another high execution event. And I was able to go through no reps, clean run, and just wanted to roll the dice and go for it on that last one.
It certainly panned out for you, taking the event win. Did you find that as you went through the rounds, you were getting more efficient, or was the fatigue starting to set in?
No, definitely. I mean, there's not a high volume of work, so just kind of trying to dial it in each round and trying to just make it to that next cut.
You certainly made it. Congratulations on your event win.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Justin Medeiros, his second win of the competition, looks to be your overall leader. And full send across the finish line to bring home the victory. And
he needed a moment.
That could have been a lot worse for Justin Medeiros.
It could have been a lot worse, Sean.
Overall standings now through 6 of the 10 events. Justin Medeiros by 20 points over Pat Vellner, and he turns a 10-point deficit into a 60-point lead now over Roman Krennikov, who falls all the way to third place. Sam Quant stays in fourth. He's just 15 points back of Krennikov, tied with Jeffrey Adler, but Quant has the tiebreak. One event remains for the CrossFit athletes on the day. That's the Texas Oak. That will be later on this evening. We will take a quick break, but action will continue with the strongman competition coming up. The yoke carry overhead log lift medley is next at the 2022 Rogue Invitational.